Hello, good morning. Tacky cheetah print coffee cup. I don't know who got this cup, but we got it forever. I don't really know what to say. I did look at the comments for the one where I'm like crying a lot, and there's a couple of those, but I did look at them, and they were all quite sincere actually, and I appreciated that. Nothing to the effect of anything worse than, oh, you need counseling. And I have a therapist. He comes every Monday, and I speak to him, and he doesn't help at all because this isn't about my mental illness. It's about Quentin's mental illness. It's about Hollywood's mental illness. Right? So, I don't know if he's breaking down. I don't, honestly. The women, right? I know that the thought of me going there and calling the LAPD and like saying what I need to say, and I'll probably write something out and have it to where I just read that and I don't go on and on. But right, if I start saying things like illegal imprisonment, and torture, being held against their will, and all these things, they're not. I find it hard to believe that if I say Courtney Braun needs to be disbarred, right, because she's allowed Quentin to hold these women against their will for almost 2 years, that the LAPD is just going to say, oh, crazy guy. I think that it's like probably a lot likelier that they're going to see me and then look at the people in that office and say, well, what do you have to say about it? This guy is obviously, right, he's not talking out of his ass right now. It's a very clear allegation. Right? Why can't he see these women? What is the reason? Fame's not good enough. The law is above fame. That's the point. Fame is not above the law. Right? Justice buys the law, Claudius, Hamlet. Right? Harlot's cheek, beautied with plastering art, is not more ugly than the thing that makes it. Right? Something like that. Right? But I will say the video I made yesterday, the most recent one, the guy was like, oh, I look forward to the police coming to your door soon. And that, I deleted that comment. I removed that comment. This isn't a cynical channel. I can be cynical sometimes, right? When I think about Quentin, when I think about show business, like how miserable that whole godforsaken industry is. Just the veneer of it all, like the varnish. There's no psychic truth there. There's no spiritual truth there. That's the point, right? For all that these cats think that like these fucking weird mind games are cool, they don't understand that they're actually like deep psychiatric issues. That's like what's actually occurring, right? If we take Aleister Crowley, for example, right, that great sage that everyone in LA loves, I'm sure. He gives you clear blueprints for calling demons, right? And all these things. And it's all there in like all of his books, in that journal. What's that journal? Equinox. But he's also immediately, he was wise. He's a smart guy, He was very quick to say, right? It's also worth pointing out that likely all that's occurring is one part of your psyche is calling another part of your psyche. That's well, there it is. Right? And so we cross into the territory of objectivity in terms of science, scientism, and all these things, like a reductionist materialistic science. When we start involving control groups, right, that we can compare our results to, that's like now we're kind of liberating ourselves out of pure occultism into true clairvoyance, true scientific understanding of clairvoyance. And so we do that with instrumentation, with MRIs, with brain scans, operating in tandem as you're remote viewing, as you're alleging to have instances of clairvoyance. And then we analyze, right, the neuronal, activity, like what areas of the brain are most active in these instances, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Oliver Sacks probably discussed this 1,000 times in his career. But my point is that, right, that these people don't actually understand like what's occurring around them. That they, right? It's actually like an easy case legally to prove, right? And the only reason that I know that is because I'm living it. That's the point. Right? That if, right, and it's very specific. It's not like, right, like, give me your money, like that's like, right? But if you have someone who's being subjected to these kinds of tortures, hooked up to instrumentation, hooked up to an MRI, right, getting blood work done constantly, getting their biorhythms checked constantly, their temperature, how much they're sweating, like the amount of salt in their sweat, and all these things. Like if you can find, right, if their blood pressure fluctuates, right, at the same time that you can prove definitively, like through, like, direct testimony or through direct evidence, or I suppose circumstantial evidence, if someone saw someone doing it. That's not hearsay. You saw them directly do it. But my point is that, like, there has to be proof that the person is doing the thing, and there has to be proof that the person, right, has a physiological spike, right? But that's all it takes. It's not, right? You don't have to divine, like, through cards. Like, no, you use medical science. That's it. Right? And so now he's really in this quagmire, right, where I can go to a lawyer, right, with any of these women, right, and they'll just outright lie for me. That's the point, right? That they'll start crying and sweating and say, "Oh, it's right now, and then the video has me with a hypodermic needle, right? And they don't even, it's all bullshit. It's all theater. They're actresses. You get it, right? But it is true. That's the point. That's the point. 1 second. Right? Doesn't mean it's not true. Just means it hasn't been proven legally yet. Right? Canonization, zealous representation. Daniela. Did Quentin put her father in the grave when he figured out that Leo's not his real son? He was only, 71? 72? Right? Did Quentin exact a sadistic psychic torture upon him until he had a heart attack? I think that makes a lot of sense to me. I don't want that to be true. I don't want that to be true. Right? But if we treat the way that he's treating me as a psychological baseline, right? As like, oh, this is how I control every mind in my life completely, then that's quite dangerous, isn't it? And that's, right? That's not healthy. And he can't relax. He has to live up here. You get it? Right? I don't have to live up here. I choose to live up here. Right? Really, I choose to live here. Right? Like that's like, and in my heart, the strong and swelling evil of my conception. Right? I know that he was showing me he loved me. I know that he doesn't love anything. He's so deeply ill. I keep thinking about William Friedkin. I keep thinking about The Exorcist. Cinema speculation, 70s cinema, 70s director. Right? Occult film where a woman masturbates with a crucifix, right? You get it? All these things. You think he's got kids? I wonder what they have to say about their father, about their late father. If he has a bunch of cool old books on esotericism. Right? Is there a Hollywood Book of the Dead? I wonder. I don't need to read it. What? My point is that Quentin puts too much stock in this thing. Right? Number one, initiation is by degrees. Right? And I know in his mind, he was like, oh, 3rd degree. I mean, like he's already 1 and 2. That's like how he justified it in his mind. Right? But what I'm saying is I'm 33rd degree. And so what I'm saying is that, right, he should have started with the 1st degree. Right? And said, right? But if the truth is that I buried him in it, and all the women were like, what does he have to prove to you? Like, what is he going? He's going to memorize your lines? He sends you 6 minutes of Hamlet that's flawless, and he needs to show you that he can memorize dialogue? He shows you he can play Django Reinhardt note for note, and he needs to show you, like, what is there? Like, what else is there? Is there another actor that has given you 5% as much of what he's given you in the last 2 weeks? And the answer is no. Right? Like, that's like... that for all that he insults me, right? It does seem pretty obvious that everyone in town never actually gave a fuck about like what that film represents psychologically or spiritually. to the collective, right? To him, to me, that they just looked Quentin right in the eye after they read it and said, oh yeah, I can do it. Because they want to tie up Mikey Madison and lie to the world about forcibly penetrating them. That's the point. You get it? That it was never about anything other than his sadistic black magic spell to compel people to conceive through getting turned on by his bondage scenes to justify his biological infertility. You get it? Right? I don't think that he realized that necessarily, like when he was writing it. Right? Because that's like, there's the clairvoyance, right? It's like a pure, raw sort of channeling of spiritual truth through his psyche. Right? Sea dream. Right? But when he refused to speak to me, reconcile with me, right? The women all saw that. They saw a goblin. They saw like someone like deeply unresolved in their mind and said, right, we think your movie's always been really fucked up and Brian was the only reason we were ever excited about it and we don't want to do it anymore if he's not doing it with us. Not because I'm the best actor, but because they knew what he wanted. That's the point. Right? And so the scenes, right? Let's just say that nothing occurs. That he stays like a cool Hollywood guy. Those scenes won't be in the film. Right? And I can't stress this enough. Like, come April 1st, he's going to announce, again, that it's the movie critic. Just like he did last year, because I was starting to go off around the end of March saying, what the fuck is going on here? You guys are like insulating a really sick, evil man. Right? As far as Ari Emanuel and his agency and all these things. And so it is my contention that he said, okay, we'll do April the 1st, and then he'll sue. And then the following April. Right? Me never realizing living here, that this is about the women, right? That he's been holding all these women in a quasi-criminal fashion because right, he doesn't want to admit that he destroyed his marriage by never being honest. And now, right, they want the celestial angel. That's the point. Right? And then I can write hot smut. That's like, I guess that's just a bonus, isn't it? That I can make them come with my mind. So, save the cynicism, you know? Shove it up your ass. Man, we're good. I get it. You think that I don't have the right to say my mind? That I deserve to have the police kick down my door and all these things. Okay. Very funny. Right? That I have schizophrenia. Right? Do any of you know these people? I don't think that like anyone who like makes any of these comments like actually knows any of these people, do they? Therefore, right? None of you can disprove my claims. If the things that I'm saying are true, and they are, then it stands to reason that all of these people, everyone involved, have palpable vested personal interests in maintaining the status quo to prevent Quentin from exacting sadistic torture upon them. It is not too far-fetched if you are wise, if you understand that Quentin could hold their phones. It's only a crime if they admit he's holding their phones. You get it? Right? That he could like be a total goblin and like keep them locked and feed them crackers under the door. Right? And then he lets them out. Right? Someone hands them their phones as soon as they leave and he's on them immediately. Right? And if they if they step out of line, right? And perhaps he does have cameras and shit on him now. That it has become like Mission Impossible. That he's like, right? But you get my point, right? That they appear normal, right? That they have the glamorous, like Hollywood, like, oh, I'm so fine, look how fucking sexy I am. On the front, the veneer. And underneath, right? Quentin's at his house, just waiting for an excuse to exact high evil upon them. The highest, most disgusting, dangerous evil that anyone could practice. Right? And so the point is that until no one else, see these women alone with the LAPD, no one will ever convince me otherwise. Because everything that they say is potentially legal duress as a result of having a buffer that leads between them and me through Quentin's psychic sadism. You get it? Right? I'm not saying you have to believe in telepathy. Right? I'm not saying you have to believe in remote viewing. Right? I'm saying you have to believe in, right, complete psychological breakdown. That's the point. Right? And if the only way that he can feel whole as a person is by controlling someone's mind, then it does stand to reason that if he's proven, right, in a palpable way that he doesn't control someone's mind and they still expect to look him in the eye, that could lead to a complete psychological collapse. And anyone who doesn't understand that, they're in fact ignorant. That's like, there it is, right? That's like a simple psychological foundation. Like if I operate in the world and say, oh, if I don't control your mind, I'm not a whole person. Then when it's proven to the entire industry, right, that you've dedicated your life to, that you don't control someone's mind, and they do expect to look you in the eye, it does make perfect sense that whomever could have a complete psychological collapse. And so, it's like the things that he's struggling with, right? The things that he's struggling with, right, is that successors, right? It's like, what do you want in a successor? Like, do you want someone who fucking eats your ass? Or do you want someone who's actually wise and says, why do you behave this way? Like, why? I mean, you understand what I'm saying right now? So, right? Courtney Braun, House Counsel for WME. Agent Mike Simpson, right? Former CEO Ari Emanuel of WME. Are you all satisfied with how this is going down? Are you not tired of looking at yourselves in the mirror and saying, what am I condoning? Tom Rothman, Sony Pictures. God bless.